Action.
Hi, I'm Greg Walter with Antique Weapons Store. Today I'd like to show you this rare British Congreve rocket launcher from the early 1800s. Now, rockets were used for military purposes at least as far back as the 13th century when the Chinese used them. During the late 18th century, the Kingdom of Mysore in India used them against the British East India Company. When the Tipu Sultan fell in 1799, the British took a number of these rockets back to England for research and development. And that research was done primarily by Sir William Congreve, who was also a close friend of the Prince Regent. Now, they work very much like a modern rocket, bottle rocket. You have the rocket body, which contains the propellant and the charge, and then for guidance is a long straight stick to help stabilize it in flight. Now, one of the developments that Congreve had was he used iron rocket bodies, which allowed for greater pressures, allowing for greater range that was necessary for military purposes. Now, this rocket launcher is one of only 100 that were made for the Royal Horse Artillery, and it's dated 1809. It may look somewhat like a bottle rocket itself, but it's actually entirely of iron, and it's hollow. This is the rocket tube, which holds the rocket body, and this long shaft is hollow that holds the guidance shaft. And it is fired using a flintlock mechanism like firearms of the day. The only difference is that it has a large vent hole, and there's a tube attached to the inside. The rocket body would go up against the tube, and that tube would direct the charge to the base of the rocket. Then the operator would take this pick, and with the rocket in place, they would poke a hole in the base of the rocket, exposing the powder. Then it's operated like any other flintlock. You open the frizzen, put priming powder in the pan, close the frizzen, and cock the hammer. Now, for safety reasons, the trigger is attached by this long iron rod, and it's well behind the mechanism. There's also this iron flash guard to protect the operator from the flash when the rocket leaves the tube. Then it's fired like a regular firearm. The hammer goes forward, the flint strikes the frizzen, opening the frizzen and directing the spark down to the pan, igniting the powder, which then the flash goes in and ignites the rocket. Now, it is marked with the Board of Ordnance marking here. It has GR with a crown, which is for King George. And then on the rocket tube is painted also another GR for King George, the Board of Ordnance marking in the date 1809. Now, this exact rocket launcher once hung above the entryway to the Tower of London Museum. The main advantage to these was their mobility. They only weighed about 8 pounds, so they could be carried on foot or horseback, and they could access areas that traditional artillery could never reach. So just imagine a troop of soldiers with these rocket launchers climbing to the top of a mountain and firing down upon their enemy. Or a troop of soldiers sneaking up under the cover of darkness upon enemy lines and firing at point-blank range. Now, the biggest disadvantage was their inaccuracy. And as anyone knows who has fired bottle rockets, while it may go in the general direction that they're aimed, it's very difficult to hit a specific target in any kind of distance. Now, the majority of these rockets were much larger than this, and as such, they were mounted aboard ship. And that is where they ultimately became immortalized, when the British were using them during the War of 1812 to bombard Fort McHenry in Baltimore. And at that time, there was an American by the name of Francis Scott Key aboard one of these British ships. And he witnessed the bombardment. And he wrote the American national anthem and immortalized them in the words, "And the rocket's red glare." And that was describing the flight of the Congreve rockets. Now this is available for sale on our website. It's extremely rare. And you'll also find many other old weaponry and miscellaneous items from all over the world and all different ages on our website. So please visit us at antiqueweaponstore.com. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.